He used to take me to different countries all over the world. He was the one who showed me Switzerland. He was the one who showed me Japan. He was the one who bought me steak for the first time in my life. I could buy everything I wanted, but still I was very unhappy. I was just dying during my marriage. And eventually I got divorced, and I think that saved my life. So my story started when I was a 24-year-old naive girl that was about to move to another country. I was about to change my life completely. I was born and raised in Russia, and I never really connected with my country, neither with people. So I just decided that I need to try to build my life somewhere else. And my choice fell onto Israel, because I have some Jewish roots and I could immigrate to Israel. And so I decided to try. And so after I finished university in Russia, I applied for my citizenship to Israel, and it was approved. Yay! Because I didn't have anybody in Israel back then, I decided to register on some dating app just to find some friends, some people to talk to when I'm there. And I specifically wrote in that purpose for dating, I wrote that I'm looking for friends, because I didn't really look for anything romantic. And I remember after 2 days after I registered, my future husband messaged me. So we started talking, and I used to live in Moscow back then. He was in Israel, living in Tel Aviv. We started talking. I told him that I am moving to Israel soon. We ended up talking every day. Then we started calling each other, then video calling each other. And then he said, you know what, I want to come to Moscow and meet you. I'm really excited to see you in real life. I can't wait until you come to Israel. And so I said, yalla, okay, you can come and visit me if you want. I only had like 1 month before my final move to Israel. He bought the tickets and he actually came to visit me to Moscow. He had 4 days there, his vacation. We met there and we fell in love during these 4 days. It was just an instant spark, and we were exploring Moscow together. We were talking, we were getting to know each other better. We were obviously making out all the time and stuff like that. It was a great time. Then he moved back to Israel and we kept talking. We kept calling each other during this month. He used to call me every night, the same hour on the video, and we were talking each and every day. And it was amazing. I really felt that there is something to it, you know, something serious is going on here. So I moved to Israel. I came for a program that was situated in the north of Tel Aviv. So I was living there in a dormitory and also studying Hebrew in the same building. And the program lasted for 5 months. And during these 5 months, we were dating, talking with him every day. We basically became boyfriend and girlfriend. We were spending every weekend together and a couple of days during the week. So we were meeting really frequently. So after I finished my program, I stumbled upon a choice. It's either I had to rent my own apartment, my first apartment in Tel Aviv or wherever I could afford, or I could move in with that guy that I was talking with. And in order for me to rent an apartment, I had to find a job. And in order to move in with him, I didn't have to find a job. So because I was young and because I was kind of, you know, in shock that, oh my God, new country, I don't know, I kind of leaned in with the comfort zone mode. And so, although I knew that it was not the best idea, because I already previously had an experience living with somebody before marriage, and it turned out for me not being the best experience ever. But despite that, I decided to move in again with somebody before the marriage. Spoiler alert, it didn't turn out well. Anyway, we started living together. We were living together in Tel Aviv in 1-bedroom apartment, in the apartment he was living in. And at first it was amazing. We were just in love. It was crazy. I mean, if you've ever been in love, you understand that feeling when you can't get enough of each other. But it's very easily to fall into the trap of physical thing and not really pay attention to other things, because a relationship is not only physical thing. You may be very, very compatible physically and you may be very attracted to the person physically, but this person might be not the best choice for you in terms of long-term relationship and life building together. And so because we were young, I was 24 at the time and he was 29, turning 30, so we were very inexperienced and young, and we didn't really know how to date, how to get to know each other. And so we started to get into many fights. Almost every day we were fighting, and those fights were bad. We're yelling at each other, and now I know how to resolve the conflict. But back then, when I was 24, I had no idea how to resolve conflict. We were yelling at each other, and I would just leave the house. I would go and shut the door into my room, in the only room that we had there in that apartment. And he would also yell and tell me that I'm too sensitive and all of that stuff. So we were just the textbook of a couple who had no idea how to date and how to build a relationship. And so these fights, they were building this wrong foundation, this toxic foundation of our relationship. And we'd been living in that apartment for 2 years. We were still in love. That's why we kind of swept those arguments under the rug. We thought like, okay, every couple fights, it's okay, it's just part of a deal. And we kept arguing. We then kept making up. As it goes, you argue and then you go to bed, and then everything suddenly disappears. Although you know that it doesn't actually disappear, because problems need to be gone through, otherwise they will not pass. So when we started dating, it was 2018. At 2020, pandemic started, and we were still living in that small apartment. It became really hard and difficult living together in such a small space. And also, I still didn't work because, again, as I told you before, I felt into this comfort zone. My ex-husband, back then it was my boyfriend, made good money because he was a software developer, and so he was working and making great money that was enough to support our 2 members' family. And so I really didn't have to work, although I did try to find myself in a new country. I tried to work as a waitress, I tried to work as a marketing manager, I even finished some marketing courses for that. Then I tried to build my YouTube channel. YouTube was with me for all the time that I remember myself. I tried many things to do and to find myself, but I didn't really work. And he started to become the main figure in my life, because I was totally dependent on this person. Financially, emotionally, physically, just in any way, shape and form, I was dependent on that person. So he was like a guide for me into this new world, because he was the one who knew the language. He was the one who knew the country, because he grew up in Israel. He was the one who knew how everything works, and he was the one who was making money. He was the one who had life here. He was the only person that I could trust and rely on. I just started to think that I am nothing without him. Pandemic started, and we decided to move to another apartment. And while we were thinking about it, I decided to get a new profession. So I learned dog grooming, and I decided to open my own home dog grooming business, little salon in my apartment. And so we found this 2-floor apartment, and I built my dog grooming salon on the 2nd floor. And I started working as a dog groomer. Things were improving a little bit because I finally started to feel like I'm an autonomous person that can actually make money, and I had really great success with that business. I managed to get clients in the first month of my opening, and it was really nice. But, I just felt like it's just not the job for me. I was getting so tired after every shift, and I just thought, why would I try so hard at my job if I don't have to work? And so I decided to close my dog grooming business, and then I started to develop a depression because I couldn't find a place where I belong. I couldn't find anything to do with my life in this new country. And also, as a new immigrant, it's very common for people to develop a depression, especially if they come to the country in adulthood. You kind of leave your old identity behind and you start to build yourself from the scratch. And it's really heavy on your mind, on your brain, and your psychology, All these layers, they kind of laid on each other. And so, because I didn't work, my ex-husband started to expect things from me. So he would expect me to cook for him all the time. He would expect me to do the laundry. He would expect me to clean everything. For example, I'm sitting and editing my video for the YouTube channel that I had back then, and he would work from home, and he would come to my room and say, "Listen, I'm getting hungry. Why don't you come up and cook something for me?" And I'm sitting and doing my thing. I'm also trying to do something with my life. And I would say, "Listen, I'm a little bit busy now, so once I'm done, I can go and cook something for you." And he would instantly go passive aggressive. He would start to diminish my persona because he would say, "Listen, you don't work, you don't make money in that family. I'm the only breadwinner, so why don't you just take care of me and do your stuff after I'm taken care of?" That was his favorite argument because he was the only one who worked. He was more important in our family. And because I didn't work, I had to do all of the house chores to take care of him. And it should have been my priority in my life, in his mind. And on one hand, I was kind of agree with him because I'm here only because of him, because he was the only one who was working and doing everything for me in terms of money and stuff. And the only thing I could do to him to pay back is to take care of him and to do everything for him, house-wise and cook-wise and stuff. On the other hand, it was making me feel so worthless. I felt like I had to pay him back. Not necessarily because I genuinely wanted to cook for him in that particular point of time, but I just had to because he became hungry. He is the god of our family, became hungry. So I just had to stand up and rush to the kitchen to cook him something. And that started to mess with my brain super hard. I started to, go in those spiral moments where I thought that, oh my God, I am nothing without him. He's the one who is working and making money, and I should be thankful that I have him in my life. Otherwise, I could have been homeless and whatever. And it continued to get worse, and we started to fight more. I think because of that anxiety and stress that I had back then, my immune system started to decline. And so I got this health challenges. Doctors found this bacteria that's called Helicobacter. So it's this bacteria that you can get by eating the food that was not properly produced, like it was dirty, or some cook cooked this food with dirty hands. I don't know where I got this bacteria, maybe even back in Russia, I have no idea. They found this bacteria in my gut, and they told me that if you're not going to treat it, it can eventually become cancer. And just so you know, the treatment for this bacteria is super harsh. Like, I had to take 10 different antibiotics daily for the period of 2 weeks. And so I had this choice. Either I treat it with this heavy lifting treatment, or I play with fate and I pray and hope that I won't get cancer eventually. And so, of course, I decided to treat it. I start to get these antibiotics every day. As you know, antibiotics, they kill not only bad bacteria, but also good bacteria. And so these antibiotics killed everything. All the flora that I had in my body, everywhere. Not only in gut, but also in female parts, everywhere. I was just like a sterile table in the surgeon cabinet, or even worse. But eventually I, thank God, killed this bacteria, but also I killed everything good with it. I became super skinny because I couldn't eat anything during my treatment and after the treatment while I was recovering, because also the bacteria in the gut that was helping to digest food was dead. So I couldn't digest food. Everything that I'd eaten, I would immediately go and just leave in the bathroom. I had a very strict diet. I only ate like chicken soup, bread, rice. And I was 42 kilograms at the time. I was super skinny, I was super malnourished, and I was super weak. I was getting tired even going from room to room. Also because of that, one of the side effects was it was really hard for me to be intimate with my husband, because I also killed everything down there, and it was hurtful as hell. My ex-husband also took it very not good, because he started to get angry with me. He started to become agitated because he can't really be intimate with me because of that, and he made it as if it was my fault, and it worsened our relationship even more. And so we were living in that apartment. It's been already a year since we had been living there, and after this year some crazy idea came to my mind. I thought to myself, why won't we get married? I think that if we get married, every problem will just go away. And so we got married. I said to him, if you won't get married with me, I will leave you. And when I asked him, why didn't you marry me before? He said, I was waiting for you to develop into the wife that I really need. And I asked him, what do you mean? He said, I was waiting for you to learn how to clean better and more frequently, how to cook more frequently and better, how to be wife better, And back then I didn't really pay attention to these words, but if I were with my now brain back then, I would have just run. I heard it from him and I said, okay, no big deal. I mean, the main thing for me was to get a ring, because I was already 27 back then and I was moving closer to 30. And we all know, because of the social conditioning stupid thing, we know that a woman has to get a kid closer to 30. And how can you get a kid if you're not married, of course? And I was really like in that rush to get married. When I got what I wanted, when I got married, I thought my problems will go away. And it didn't go away, obviously. And it was terrible. We were fighting constantly. And each and every time we were traveling, we were constantly fighting. My ex-husband was expecting me to be intimate with him all the time, but I didn't want to, because our relationship was so bad. I was so misunderstood all the time, and we didn't know how to communicate. We didn't talk. And because we didn't talk, and added up and stacked up, and so we had so many problems and unresolved issues, so that our connection just ripped. For a woman, if she doesn't feel an emotional connection with her man, she cannot have sex with him. She cannot be intimate with him. And so he didn't understand why I didn't want that with him. He would say, it's never enough for you. I buy you everything. I take you to expensive vacations. I buy you new iPhones. I buy you this. I buy you that. You never want me back. You never give anything back. And it felt very transactional to me. I thought that as if he has given all of that to me only for me to be intimate with him. Every time when I told him, it's not what I need from you. I just need you to hear me and to really listen to what I have to say. And it was just a huge disconnect between us. We didn't understand each other at all. And we didn't want to understand. And it was becoming worse and worse. We stopped having sex. And I still wasn't working. And at the time, it's been 4 years that we'd been together. And I would think to myself, I'm so unhappy, but I can't leave him because I am depending on him 100%. I won't be able to survive alone, especially after all this time in the country where I had no experience, no working experience whatsoever. It was even more difficult for me to now step away from the comfort zone and to actually do something on my own. I felt so low about myself, and so I was so not confident in myself. I thought that I have him, and only with him, I was like an application to him, like an addition. I can be on my own because I will suffer and struggle, but only with him that I feel whole and amazing. And, he's my God. And it was killing me. After I recovered from my bacteria treatment and antibiotics and all that stuff, it took me a year to recover. I was finally eating good and stuff, but I couldn't gain my weight back. So I was still 42, 43 kilograms, and doesn't matter what I did, doesn't matter what I ate, doesn't matter how much I trained at the gym to try and gain that muscle mass, I couldn't. Nothing worked. I am naturally is a very lean person. I never was extra weight, but I was super skinny back then. I was just almost like an anorexic person back then. And that also added up to my unacceptance. I thought that I'm so unattractive. I thought that I look like a skeleton and nobody wants to look at me. I thought that I was so ugly. And I thought I have no chance to get any job looking like that. It was such a shitty situation that I put myself into. And so after 2 years living in that second apartment, we decided to move again. We already were married at that time, and so when we moved to the third apartment, I thought that it's time to have kids. Yay! That thought when everything is so terrible and you think that if only you have kids, everything will get better. So we got all the checkups done. We checked our genetics, our blood. We did everything necessary to know if we're safe to make kids, but eventually I decided not to have kids with him. Kids would only worsen the situation, so it would have been such a great mistake if I'd had kids with him. So we started living in that new apartment, and I finally started to reflect a little bit on us, on myself, and learn and research how to rebuild our relationship, how to make it better, how to make him want to really do something about it, because he constantly was rejecting all of my thoughts about having a therapist. He was saying that we don't need that, we can do everything on our own, we're okay on our own. And so I started to send him these articles and videos about people saying what woman wants, how to listen to her, how to rebuild a relationship. But it was pointless because he didn't really want to rebuild anything. He was just living as is, constantly working. He was a terrible workaholic. He was working constantly. That was actually one of the reasons why we got disconnected in the first place, because he, after the honeymoon period faded, dove into work. So I essentially didn't really see him. He was constantly working, even on weekends, and was fighting for his time. It was never enough because he would go out with his friends and he would go out with different people, and I didn't have any friends there. He was the only person that I'd know there, and that I was in a horrible situation. And at that time, my mom already came to Israel also, and she already got married there. One day she invited me over to her and to her husband. And she said, Masha, you're not the same person that I've known before. You changed so much, and I see how you're fading. And they both told me that this marriage is not good for me. But I was arguing with her. I said, no, you don't understand. This is my husband. We are now together. Only death will tear us apart. Nothing will change. I will always stay with him. And so I dismissed what she said to me, and I continued living with him for 1 year more. And at the end of the 6th year we had been together, something happened. Something that changed my life. That was the last drop, after which I decided to leave him. So it was just a regular morning. I was sitting in the salon in front of the coffee table drinking my morning coffee. And it was some laundry hanging on a hanger on a balcony. It was very windy at that day. The wind blew very hard, and because of that, the hanger dropped down and all of the laundry scattered around the balcony, becoming dirty again. And my husband worked at home at that day. He rushed into the salon. He saw what happened and he just snapped. He started yelling at me, saying like, I told you to remove it yesterday. If you had done it before, it wouldn't have happened. Why didn't you listen to me? Why you always leave this laundry for multiple days? Why don't you move it before? Blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't the first time he was so upset about me not doing the chores the right way. And so when he stopped yelling at me, he came back to work, and I was left sitting there with my coffee, with all of this laundry laying there. And I was thinking, what am I doing here? What I'm here for? Why am I listening to this every day? I think something from above, maybe universe, maybe God, threw this hanger. I think it was the sign. I don't want to sound superstitious, but I think it was something from above. So I just stood up and I went to his room and I said him this phrase: if you won't stop behaving this way with me and yelling at me, I will divorce you. And he turned at me with his chair and he smirked and said, you go try. And that was the last drop for me. The next day in the morning, I packed my backpack. He was still sleeping. I told him that I was going to my mom for the weekend. So, I never left my apartment for the weekend alone. Never. And so I left to my mom and I never came back. Eventually, I said that I want a divorce and we got divorced. And the best part is that after the first 3 months, after I got separated with him, I regained my weight back. It was so amazing. Now I weigh 48, 49 kilograms compared to 42, 43 back then. That was the main sign why it was the great decision. Your body tells you when something is not right. But once I got divorced, once I got separated, everything just bloomed. Everything became better. I became happier. My life regained colors and sounds. And I started smiling again. I started to go to the beach. I started to go out. I started to go for a walk. I started to talk to people. I couldn't talk to anybody while I was married, especially to the opposite sex. What do you mean? I can't talk to other guys because I'm married. You see the ring? You see the ring? I can't talk to other guys. But now I have such freedom that I'm not ready to trade it again. And yes, I would love to find my actual real love, but I'm not in a rush. I'm not in a hurry. I think that it will come at the right time. And now I know the signs when it's not for you. I know the red flags. You need to be cautious for the red flags. You need to start noticing them from the start, because you can tell from the start if something is off. Always listen to your guts and intuition, because I used to block it completely. And it's a wrong thing to block your intuition. Now I'm starting my life from scratch again in this country. And it's been a year and a half and I'm doing good. Obviously, I can't go for a vacation twice a year anymore for now, but I'm working on that. Share your stories in the comments and you got this. See you in another one.